Hello, New Zealand. We are back. McBlog is back, and boy, there's a lot to talk about. I was noticing a lot of things I could have commented on during January, but thought we'd give you a bit of a break. So we're back with a vengeance. And one of the focuses is once again on the legacy media, the mainstream media. A number of things to call them out on. So let's get straight into it. Last November, I showed you an example of the New Zealand media turning on itself regarding its lack of balance, its bias, and the reason for its declining trust. And Newstalk ZB's Heather Plessis-Allan, who used to be a reporter on One News, went ballistic about the bias of TVNZ's coverage of the hikoi to Parliament. Remember that last year? And there was this interview from Breakfast on One, where it went viral. David Seymour obviously was not happy and called TVNZ out for their bias. Have a watch.
The controversial Treaty Principles Bill will be debated in Parliament. The bill, which seeks to redefine our founding document, Te Tiriti o Waitangi, has sparked what could be the largest mobilisation this country's seen in modern history. A 9-day hikoi will begin in Northland on Sunday. Organisers say events throughout the march aim to share how Te Tiriti uplifts all New Zealanders. The hikoi will culminate in a mass gathering on Parliament grounds on November 10. Well, ACT leader David Seymour is behind the bill. He joins us in studio now. Morena. Before we even get to that, can we talk about the timing of the bill? Why was it changed?
Well, before we even get to that, can we start with your introduction? Because it is not a divisive bill. It is some people's opinion that it's a divisive bill. Your job is to reflect the views of all New Zealanders, not to take sides. Second of all, as a matter of fact, it does not change the Treaty of Waitangi at all. It changes the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi, which was set down by Parliament in 1975. Now, if we can just start with a bit of fairness and a few facts, then I'm very happy to look at your other questions.
So there have been...
Yeah, well, that particular clip, 30,000 views just on our channel. A similar clip had more than 260,000 views on YouTube. And as with my post, the comments weren't about which side of the debate people were on. It was about the bias of the media and its coverage. Look, we may not be in agreement on the treaty bill. You may or may not like David Seymour, but we're in agreement that the media are biased and are letting down viewers in providing both sides of the debate. And then again on TVNZ and on their breakfast show, have a watch of this clip. As I said at the time, if the reporter was interviewing me about my views on abortion, marriage, euthanasia, or abusing children with puberty blockers, you can guarantee that the questions would be aggressive, challenging, demanding evidence, pushing back with counter-arguments. I mean, you would expect that. I don't think I've ever had a patsy interview on mainstream media, ever. But have a watch of this and see if you can figure out where the reporter stands on the controversial issue.
Crowds gathered before dawn in the far north this morning to kick off what could be the biggest hikoi in decades. Te Karere reporter Harata Brown is in Te Kao and joins us now this morning. Morena Harata.
Morena, I'm not quite in Te Kao, but I'm here at Te Reinga where the hikoi has just left. And I thought I'd start us off first with a bit of a haka there, Eru. Kato he au ki te mana nāna nei whakataure karekati Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Anā, joining me now beside me is our spokesperson for Toitu Te Tiriti hikoi, Eru. Tell us, what does it mean to finally kick this off? We've just had a beautiful karakia ceremony. I guess, how are you feeling being the spokesperson for such a big and mobilising event?
Okay, well, that's enough of that, but it was a lovely love fest. You know, I've never had an interviewer on TVNZ or any other media ask me to sing a song with them, or be told how significant I was and how significant the work of Family First is. But TVNZ's bias, unfortunately, was all sealed with this. The New Zealand Herald reported this. One of TVNZ's most senior executives and the person considered most likely to fill the broadcaster's proposed new supercharged news and content executive position has taken annual leave this week to attend and support the North Island hikoi. TVNZ Chief Content Officer Nevak Rogers' presence in a personal capacity at the Hikoi, as well as several posts on her Instagram social media account, has caused consternation among some staff, but TVNZ has defended her position. Just 3 months ago, the state broadcaster was championing the importance of the impartiality of its newsroom, releasing an editorial policy to enhance its transparency and inspiring trust in news. Well, so that's the background to Heather du Plessis-Allan from Newstalk ZB, her missive against TVNZ. It was a well-deserved missive. Have a listen.
Listen, good luck to TVNZ, eh? Good luck to TVNZ trying to convince anyone that they're unbiased, given what's just happened with them in the last week. So I just played you the clip of the breakfast reporter singing with the organiser of the Hikoi, which I think any right-minded person would interpret as an endorsement of the Hikoi, which I think should earn her some serious trouble if TVNZ takes perceptions of bias seriously. But actually what is much more serious for them is that the woman who was tipped to become the top news boss at TVNZ has just been outed today for taking personal leave to go on the Hikoi. And the reason we know this is because she loves a social media post and she's put it up on her Instagram, so just flaunted it for everyone to see. Now, obviously people are entitled to private political views, even if they are news bosses, but if you are a news boss or about to become the news boss, you should be smart enough to keep that private. Emphasis on private, especially if your organisation is trying to pretend that it's unbiased, which is what TVNZ is trying to do very hard at the moment in the face of falling public trust in media. Just a few weeks ago, TVNZ self-published its editorial guidelines for journalists, and the point of that was to tell us that they take impartiality seriously and that they are impartial. Well, that's just been massively undermined by finding out that the woman who will be in charge of all of the journalists actually doesn't really like the current government at all. So good luck. I mean, you can corral those journalists into a neutral space all you like, but if the lady who is their boss has very strong views about the current government, so strong that she wants to go on a protest against them, I think you've got a problem with perception of bias. Now,
ouch. When the media are turning on their own, this is not going to be pretty, but Heather is spot on. Yep, good luck to TVNZ. Of course, let me just put a little note in here to conclude. Newstalk ZB is not off the hook. Their newsroom is no better than TVNZ's. Remember their coverage of Trump in the lead up to the election? You know, remember that rally where Trump showed some humanity by halting the political rally so that sick people could be tended to twice. And then he turned it into a fun event of music and signing Trump caps. But the media mockers pounced on it and totally tried to fool you, including Newstalk ZB.
Donald Trump has stopped taking questions at his latest town hall in Pennsylvania and swayed on stage to music for 39 minutes, also telling supporters to vote for him in January, despite the election being in 3 weeks.
Oh yes, you can hear the sarcasm in the voice, can't you? Their written version said Trump's impromptu dance performance at Pennsylvania Town Hall raises questions and mockery. But the latest friendly fire was shot by senior business reporter from the New Zealand Herald, Fran O'Sullivan. She's been writing for the New Zealand Herald for the last 23 years, basically the whole time I've been reporting politics and firstly the media and now Family First. Now, before I read you her article from the weekend, let me show you how the media covered the naming of Simeon Brown, National's Simeon Brown, as the new Minister of Health in the latest cabinet reshuffle. And remember, health is an Achilles heel for the government. Emergency department waits, security in hospitals, Dunedin hospital rebuild, shortage of specialists and nurses who are going overseas, significant cost-cutting measures, disturbing shortages of local GPs. I mean, have you ever tried to get an appointment with your GP recently? New Zealand has a right to be concerned that they're not getting the health services they need or deserve. But what key health issue were our good friends at Stuff and 3 News focused on? Shout with me, it was abortion. This article by Bridie Whitten from Stuff is a completely one-sided, tone-deaf article with no counter voice or view, contains misrepresentations of the law and of the prevalence of late-term abortions, which, by the way, have significantly increased since the law change. Do you know abortions have increased 23% since decriminalisation? There's been a 15% increase in just the past 12 months and a 67% increase in late-term abortions between 2021 and 2023. But Bridie Whitton just can't bring herself to mention those inconvenient truths. And this article even has a 10-minute puff piece interview with an activist from pro-death group All Rands, who, despite medical training, doesn't understand the biological truth that there are 2 lives involved in a pregnancy. The woman they interview, she's also American. I mean, why can't All Rands find some Kiwi speakers? Don't bring your US politics to New Zealand. Thank you very much. But Simeon Brown has voted against abortion reforms while in Parliament. I mean, how dare he have an opinion and speak up for the unborn child? And he was the president of a pro-life university group. Now, he actually has a very good voting record, in our view, including voting against euthanasia and against the deeply flawed conversion therapy ban. Yep, shocking. You can see why the media loathe him. But then 3 News, Jenna Lynch went on the attack. And look, let me just remind you, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, we analysed the media coverage at the time and found that there was an 82% bias pro-abortion, pro-Roe v. Wade against the decision by the Supreme Court. So, you know, there was absolutely no balance. But anyway, Jenna Lynch goes from 3 News, went on the attack against Simeon Brown. Now remember, the new Minister of Health, we're all concerned about health and how the new minister might approach this issue. How will he deal with the workforce, the waiting times, having access to a local GP, the best medication? And a good question would be, will he ban the highly flawed and ineffective and harmful puberty blockers? That would be a good question. But for the media, it's all about abortion. And it also reveals an ignorance and arrogance from the media. They know that Simeon is just one voice, one vote. The only way the law might improve for the unborn child is for Parliament to have a majority of MPs who understand biology, which is sadly not the case at the moment, or perhaps for Luxon to whip his MPs to support amendments around, for example, parental notification, late-term abortions, born alive protections, fetal pain provisions, religious exemptions. Sadly, as I show you this clip, you'll also see in this news coverage a Prime Minister who I think is more afraid of the media than he is of betraying his core beliefs. So this is a coverage last week of Simeon Brown being appointed the Minister of Health.
Energised and ready to go for 2025.
Some arriving slightly bruised from a ruthless start-of-year reshuffle.
I'm more focused on looking forward here now, proud of what we did looking back.
Dr Shane Letty mercilessly dumped from health to make way for Simeon Brown, a man who very vocally opposes abortion.
Mr Speaker, all lives matter. Old or young, male or female, black or white, born or unborn.
He voted against abortion reform in New Zealand and was one of few national MPs who celebrated the overturning of America's abortion rights.
I think my views are on the public record. Those are my personal views, but as Minister of Health and as a government, we've made it very clear we're not changing those laws.
Abortion rights group All Rands wrote to the Prime Minister today expressing concern, saying it seems like a provocation to appoint Mr Brown to this role, given he has been an anti-abortion advocate for his entire adult life.
You put on paper your voting record that shows that it's antithetical to the goals of providing health care. It just makes it hard for us to take him at his word.
Can you give a cast iron guarantee that our abortion laws will not change under your watch?
We're not changing the abortion laws.
Christopher Luxon faced similar concern when he was first elected as leader. Can you just answer the question whether you think abortion is tantamount to murder or not? That's a yes or no question. That should be really easy.
I'm a pro-life person. You know,
so yes.
That's what a pro-life position is.
It eventually led to him promising to resign before ever changing abortion law.
So given the appointment of Simeon Brown as Health Minister, can you give women a cast iron assurance that abortion laws won't change under his watch?
Yes, as I've said before, there'll be no change to those laws.
the law isn't the only way access to abortion could be impacted.
There's ways to put policies in place that make things either more tedious for patients to get to care, affecting funding to that care, affecting even the ability of pharmacies to have available medications.
Can you understand why women are nervous?
Oh, look, I've been very clear. We're not changing that legislation. That's what the Prime Minister said. That's what I'm saying.
If he looks to remove any access to abortion services in New Zealand, you step in.
Correct. We have said very clearly that there will be no change to what the current settings are around abortion.
National does not need another contentious issue to crop up and distract from an economic focus.
Yep, appalling. All the media are concerned about in the area of health is abortion. But this leads to Fran O'Sullivan's article. And remember, Fran O'Sullivan is a senior reporter. She's been in the media for a long time. And she writes this article entitled Challenges Face Media Integrity Amid Cultural Shifts. And let me just read some extracts from it. This news media went for Simeon Brown with the cheap shot that his appointment as health minister meant getting an abortion could be threatened. The media posse at the National Party caucus retreat this week wasn't focusing on his priorities for this weighty portfolio. How would he ensure New Zealand does develop a first-class health system amid the disarray left behind when a major centralisation by the last Labour government to form Health New Zealand resulted in chaos? All too complex in today's media world? Surely not. Instead, its members picked up on an obvious smear by a pro-abortion lobby, suggesting Brown's appointment meant abortion services and funding delivered by the health system were in jeopardy. His appointment was a provocation, the lobby claimed. That's plainly asinine. It would be an overreach and against the spirit of legislative change to decriminalise abortion. Well, the spirit of the legislative change, it's a demonic spirit of death and destruction, just to be clear. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon has made clear after being wrong-footed by a reporter on his abortion views early in his political career that there will be no changes to the settings under his leadership. Well, wrong-footed? Luxon admitted that abortion is murder. Even this commentator is displaying her views for all to see, Fran O'Sullivan, but she continues, I went back and watched the speeches Brown made in Parliament when the legislation was debated. There was no doubting his sincerity and his obvious pain, particularly when it comes to near-term abortions. But it also came through that he was a realist and deeply respectful of the right of other MPs to have opposing views. Brown is not stupid, he has moved on. Well, no, he's still pro-life. He just understands the reality, the harsh reality of politics. But here's the key bit. This reflexive approach by press gallery journalists in particular drives coalition ministers to exasperation. The default position is often to go for the negative first, instead of trying to understand what new policy positions involve. It's why Luxon also bypasses them to communicate directly via X, formerly Twitter, and TikTok to ensure he has some direct lines to the public where he can get his messages out untrammelled by journalistic bias. In my view, this is Fran O'Sullivan's, it contributes to a loss of trust in media, particularly amongst those who have had an appreciation for the challenges government and businesses face in a fast-changing world. Ouch. O'Sullivan then went on in the article to call out the media on the Elon Musk Nazi salute facade by the media, which I will cover in a later episode of McBlog. She also calls out wokeism and admits, she says this great line, these political leaders at the World Economic Forum Davos conference are not alone in saying the pendulum has swung too far regarding wokeness. New Zealand cannot stay isolated from these debates. Look, the media appear to have missed the memo on the trust issue. But even the media's own are pointing to the memo. The legacy news media are falling off a cliff. Is anyone surprised when you see this type of coverage that I just showed you? I'm not. Look, just at the weekend as well, they had this article in the New Zealand Herald. how liberal parents cope with kids supporting Trump. You know what? I'm really looking forward to the follow-up article. How normal parents cope with kids supporting Harris and Biden. New Zealand Herald, could you let me know when that article appears?